So after you've created your 5 puzzle cube pieces, the next thing you're going to want to do is go to each individual file and change the color of the pieces. To do that, open up one of your files and click on the little color sphere over here, and then you're going to be given a color wheel as well as a tool. If you look at it, it's like an eyedrop tool, and you can click on a surface and then adjust the color by spinning the color wheel. You can hold down the control key on the keyboard and click on another surface and you'll select that surface as well. Just make sure you don't let go of the control, otherwise when you click on something else, it will essentially take away your colors. So click on that and then rotate the shape around, and then you can click on the other surfaces as well. So just rotate and color in the surfaces. If you're having a difficulty doing that, you can also just hit plus throughout the process, and that will allow you to color portions of it and then move on to the next part. So go ahead, color each of your 5 pieces, and then once you have done that, the next thing we're going to do is enter assembly mode. So when we started off this project, we were in a part, but now I want you to go to File, New, and since we've completed the part portion of this project, we're going to move down to the assembly. So we have 2 options, standard.iam and weldment over here. Since we're not dealing with metal, we won't use the welding option. We're going to use the standard option. So I'm going to double click on that. And you're going to be greeted with an interface that looks almost identical to the interface we were using before, except now we have a few different options up here. And the main one that we're going to deal with is the one here called place. Now sometimes, depending on who was using the computer last, it might be on one of these other options, but you just want to make sure you're using the first one, which is place. And by clicking that option, hopefully you've put your parts somewhere where you can find them. I saved them in a folder. If you did not, you're just going to have to navigate to them. What you want to do is find your 5 separate puzzle cube parts, and one by one, just double click on them, and you'll notice that I'm holding it now in this interface. And if I click again, it'll actually drop down the piece. If I zoom out, I can also click multiple times to drop the piece multiple times. And I'd like you to do that with your 5 pieces, and then just watch the next segment. Okay, so I'm going to press escape twice just to exit out of the piece I was currently holding. And to put puzzle pieces together, depending on your puzzle cube, you're going to use one of 2 commands. To get to these commands, you have to go to constrain up here and click on that. The 2 commands are this one, which is called mate. This has the ability to stick 2 surfaces together. And then the one over here is called flush. And that has the ability to put 2 surfaces side by side. So let me explain how this works. Let's say I wanted to take this piece and I wanted to stick it on to like that piece over there. Right now it's in 3-dimensional space, so I'm going to go to constrain, and with the mate selected, I'm going to click on this surface and I'm going to stick it onto that surface. And you heard that click noise? That click means that I've stuck them together. Now, because we're working in 3-dimensional space, if I apply this and then I exit out of it and I move it up, you might be confused because I just mated it together, which means I stuck it together, but it's able to kind of move off the part. So you did mate it, it is stuck together, and you can even see when I move one part, the other part moves, versus like these, they don't kind of move together. But just depending on how you're viewing it, it might not appear to be connected, but it is, and you just got to trust that you've put the mate there. Okay, now it still kind of moves freely. We don't want that to happen. So the other constraint we can use is one called flush. So I'm going to go over to the flush command, and if you look at the picture, it's like putting 2 objects side by side. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click on the tops of these. Since they're not flush, they're kind of like a step right now. So that to that. You heard that click, and now if you look on this surface, it's all smooth. They're kind of flush to each other. So I'm going to hit apply. Now we can do the same thing here because it usually takes 3 constraints to fully lock 2 pieces together. And we're going to flush these 2 surfaces. So if I want to flush this and then this, and I hit apply, oh, something happened there. So what actually happened there is When you weren't looking, or unless you were looking, I switched it from flush over to mate. So what I'm saying is I want to stick this surface onto that surface. But if you think about it, you can't, because I've already glued these surfaces together. I can't rip that portion off and stick it there. So if you're ever greeted with a screen like this, don't press accept the relationship, because you're just going to add an error to your program. Instead, close out of it and think about what you did. Like, does it make logical sense? And in this case, it'd be like, oh wait, I was still on the mate option. I need to be on the flush. So I'll select flush, I'll click on that, you hear the click, and then I'll hit apply. Since I put 3 constraints on, these objects should now be fully connected and should be able to move around. Okay. If by chance you ever put a constraint you don't want on a part and you've like already hit accept, you don't need to really worry about it. Just click on the part that has that constraint and it's going to light up that in your browser. Click on the arrow on your browser, and then these are the 3 constraints I put, and if I hover over them, it'll actually show what's being connected with each of them. So I could just right click on one, delete it, and then I can move it again in that way. Okay, so go ahead, put together your puzzle cube using this technique, and if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Peace.